On a world where the sun hung low in the oozing orange sky, Commander Alia Reyes tightened her grip on the strap of her mask as the vile wind surged through the concave trenches of Zelthar 7. Ironically named for its dull, armored surface, the planet lived up to its reputation as a graveyard for the unprepared. Alia could hear the low chorus of the alien Domar processing their unyielding judgment. Every resonant hum of their voices dripped with disdain for the fragile species they had invited to negotiate. "Why do they insist on parading through the slums of a toxic wasteland?" Private Joey Marco muttered, his voice cracking through the comms, muffled by the heavy equipment strapped around his thin, suited form. "Just for a few pretty trinkets? I swear, if they start clanging their swords around for sport, I'm walking back to the shuttle." Alia flicked her visor down, signaling to the team to be quiet. The Domar gathered in a loose semicircle not far away, all towering figures with bulbous exoskeletons gleaming against the sickly filtered light. Their bright colors radiated a sense of strength and brutal pride. Alia winced as one of the Domar, the tallest and apparently the leader, stepped forward with an air of venomous arrogance. "Human," he boomed, his voice booming like thunder wrapped in gravel, "we will not linger in your safety zones while you squander our time. The chieftains wish to hear your proposal." Maybe a little less bravado would help, Joey chimed in, but Alia shot him a glance that silenced him. She had long learned that the Domar saw humanity as little more than insecurities in a bag of soft flesh. But she couldn't let her anger show, not when the stakes were high, and Earth's future interstellar relations depended on this meeting. Alia stepped forward, her own human pride rising to meet the challenge. "You speak of wasting time, but you do not understand the poisonous atmosphere here affects us. It's not a matter of respecting your land, but of surviving in it long enough to form an alliance." One of the Domar snorted a laugh, rattling the scales on his neck. "Fragile. You cannot even endure your own environment without protection." Fragile Alia felt her determination harden. "Call us what you will, but we've not come this far without proving ourselves adaptable. Our challenge is the very air we breathe. Just because you're used to devouring poisons doesn't mean we aren't made for different environments." But even as she spoke, her heart raced. This wasn't just about negotiations, it was a testament to the spirit of human resilience, and she couldn't afford to falter now. The Domar leader leaned closer, his multi-hued form casting shadows over Alia. "Demonstrate then. Show us you can withstand what your kind calls poison." Across the rusty clearing, her team exchanged tense glances. Alia could feel the judgment drumming heavy in her chest. The Domar were playing it their way. There would be no courtesy, only the demand to prove worth. "And if I cannot," Alia resisted the urge to look back at Joey, "then you can return to your planet whimpering. Nothing more than fragile creatures begging for mercy." "It'll be a damn fight," Joey muttered under his breath, the words carrying a weight Alia could feel. She took a deep breath, trying to steady the chaos bubbling up inside her. In that moment, Alia faced the swirling darkness, a challenge that eclipsed all she had known. With her humanity on her shoulders, she stepped forward, unmasking the breathing apparatus until the bitter air flooded her lungs. Her body was on fire, the very poison flowing through her veins in sharp, stinging burns. If she crumpled here, the planet and her people would be forsaken. "You want a demonstration? Then watch closely," she said, voice straight even as her thoughts scattered. She exhaled deeply, feeling the shock of toxins wrapping around her throat like barbed wire. "This is how we prove ourselves." The moment Alia surged toward the nearest Domar, she didn't just fight for survival, she fought for humanity, for the legacy of what it meant to be adaptable. There was no need for fear now, just the focus to drive her knees against the rough ground as she leaped into action. Joey's voice crackled in her ear, an echo of disbelief. "You're insane. You can't just go after them." But the thrumming pulse of alien intent bled through her senses, forging a connection that was not about the fragility of her being but the defiance of human spirit. Alia twisted, blocking a swing of a Domar's weapon with her armored forearm, bracing herself for the impact. When the first blow landed, it sent her sprawling. The venomous air twisted inside her, an internal storm that sought to ground her. Alia gasped, forcing herself back up, determined not to fall. The Domar looked on, those bulbous eyes wide with shock. They had expected her to crumple, to prove them right, but she was just getting started. Clenching her fists, Alia waded deeper into the fight, keeping her feet rooted against a battlefield that was not just physical. This was about survival, revenge, and showing the galaxy that humanity was anything but fragile. Action began to blur into instinct as she adapted, finding the rhythm of combat in a place where she was visibly outmatched. As the rhythm of conflict ignited her spirit, she didn't just clash with the Domar warriors, she clashed with the very perception of her species. As sweat mingled with the acrid air around her, she realized the dire circumstances didn't define her limits, rather, they were an invitation to shatter them. And with that, Alia Reyes transformed from a fragile soldier into a testament of resilience, a living challenge to their assumptions about humanity. The future of interstellar relations, fragile or not, was only just beginning to unfold. The air prickled as Alia Reyes staggered to her feet, fueled by adrenaline and the sheer will to prove the Domar wrong. Around her, the Domar warriors had dropped their earlier mockery, their bulging eyes flickering with equal parts shock and intrigue. She could feel the weight of their attention, a tension thicker than the poisonous fog surrounding Zelthar 7 settled over the clearing. Alia's fists clenched, palms slick from exertion and toxins. She slowly surveyed the gauzy haze that eddied like a living thing beneath the low-hanging sun. Fighting through the pungent air, she noticed something unusual. The ground beneath a rock formation shimmered. An underwater pool perhaps, or a resource the Domar coveted. Her instincts screamed at her, a human's ingenuity sparked by the peculiar sight. "Look," Alia shouted, darting toward the glimmer. The Domar advanced, but she had already pivoted on her heel, skidding to a stop mere feet from the shimmering surface. "This is your poison. The very land you boast upon. But your pride can only hide so much, can it?" Her words seemed to awaken the Domar military leader, General Rask. The towering figure approached with a garish echo, a mixture of condescension and curiosity playing across his thick features. "What is your point, human? You wish to drown in it." "No, I wish to show you." Alia dropped low, touching the surface with a trembling hand. The strange material floated slightly above the earth, glinting auriously, capturing light and reflecting it in rainbow-like hues. "There's life in this environment. Something uniquely yours. But like it, we're capable of thriving in chaos." Rask paused, his face betraying the hint of something foreign. "Intrigue. You consume poison to beg for value." "No," she rose, pushing back the innate pain constricting her throat. "We adapt. That's what makes us human. I understand your world may seem imposing, but it has more dimensions than you realize, just like ours." A ripple of curiosity passed among the watching Domar as she continued, encouraged by the softening of Rask's features. "For years, we've built cities in the ashes of catastrophic events. We've transformed those who sought to ground us into tools for resilience." Another fighter stepped forward, a massive figure named Korath, his armor almost glowing against the toxic background. "And what kind of resilience do you offer?" In that instant, Alia understood. This was not merely a contest of strength, but a chance for connection. They were tethered by survival, even if their methods and circumstances diverged. "Show me your strengths," she replied, her heart thudding with newfound resolve. "In exchange, I will demonstrate ours." There was a moment of hesitation, a primal assessment exchanged among the warriors. Rask's nod signaled an unspoken agreement, and Alia felt the air shift, the energy between them morphing from mockery to determination. When the first strike came, it wasn't warm or inviting. Korath charged, using brute force to push against her defenses. Alia barely evaded, using the edge of a boulder as both a shield and a weapon. She deflected him, grabbing onto asteroids of dirt and bouncing back. It was a dance of survival, weaving in and out, not outclassed by brute strength, but fortified by endurance. The Domar cheered and jeered, the sounds swelling around her as if they were watching their own gladiator pit. But her mind churned, seeing opportunities where the others saw sheer might. "You're strong, Korath, but your strength lies in those who know strategy." She vaulted over him, rolling back to her feet. Rask observed intently as the action unfolded. "Strategy. Exactly. You don't just need to overpower, you need to outthink," Alia urged, controlling her breath. "I can't match your size, but I can outthink you." Her words hung in the air, and for a heartbeat, doubt flickered in Rask's eyes. "Then how will you teach us?" he called from the sidelines. Alia turned her gaze, feeling the rush of encouragement from her team behind her. "Show me your worst, and I promise to adapt. You will see that human resilience is not defined by our suits. It's in our will to fight back." As effortlessly as if the air had become a second skin, Alia transformed the battlefield into an improvisational landscape, darting around the Domar warriors and fleetingly assisting them in bursts of martial prowess. She began to construct a pattern inviting newcomers to rush her, testing their strength and redirecting it for a certain tactical advantage. "Trust your comrades," she roared. against what constitutes the poison of our worlds. Gradually, the Domar began to mimic her movements, responding with an intelligence that suggested adaptability of their own. Brawn met brain in a remarkable allotment of shared ideals. Rask began encouraging his soldiers, coiling them into smaller groups and directing their collective strength, a unity forged through Alia's demonstration of tactical thinking. As the training progressed, Alia began weaving the ultimate test of fluid sequence that fused their raw strength with her delicate precision. Send 3 of your fastest. I will teach you to use your might in clever bursts. The set began to form only to turn chaotic. The ground quaked beneath their feet as the poison-laden atmosphere shifted with the pressure of the training, and Rask's disappearances became all too erratic. It dawned on Alia that their training had raised stakes she hadn't anticipated. The thick air began to pulse, unleashing tendrils of a dark substance that curled beneath their boots, a warning from the planet itself. Stay focused, Alia shouted, but chaos danced with clarity. The poison atmosphere was expanding, their movements were stirring the very essence of what made the ground toxic. Odd colors emerged, a threat that ignited alarm among the warriors, and faint shadows flickered behind their eyes. Corruption lingered, threatening to turn from tests of resilience to tests of survival. Rask's orders became clipped and hurried, his voice rising over the bursts of confusion. They were no longer just warriors in training, they were soldiers facing the peril of their own home. Alia spun around, gripping the air filled with tension, adrenaline surging through her. What would your legends do? When faced with such an imminent threat, every warrior would unite. Rask, the once scoffing leader, rallied the charged atmosphere with the strength of instinct. To arms, he commanded, the weight of desperation settling over his shoulders. Find shelter. Seconds turned indeterminate, the ground shifting ominously beneath them. Alia felt the potent energy connect them, this time not as adversaries but as allies. They fled together, but not before Alia cast one last look at the silvery shimmer that had drawn her in. This wasn't just treasure. It was promise, the heart of a lesson across galaxies. The burrowing shadows danced, but Alia led the way through low rocks and depths of poisonous streams, her human resilience clashing, blurring the lines. How close they came to annihilation sparked something deeper, a potent bond wrought through the fires of combat. In the thrumming darkness, where earthly traditions were neither weapon nor shield, but grit and intellect, Alia understood. They were changing, unfurling into something new, their army of disparate beings throbbing with newfound resilience forged through shared understanding. She was right to believe intricacies could reignite even thick-headed valor. And just as she was ready to flounder, she halted beneath a wide arch of ancient rock, panting, shadows thinning at the edges. She wouldn't allow fear to grasp her again. The atmosphere was poison, but it had brought them together. As the flickering sword of new alliances glimmered through, Alia realized this was right where she belonged. As the Domar branches spread across the expanse, humanity had not limped into their fate. They had charged, arms wide open, toward the future. Rask caught her gaze, a rare smirk flirting at the edge of his mouth. You're not so fragile after all, Commander. No, they were not just frail anymore. Together beneath the poisonous shadows, something extraordinary was beginning to take root. And for once, the weight of a shared destiny felt lighter than air. The spasms of chaos ebbed and swirled around Alia as the tremors of the poisoned ground began to quieten. Yelling soldiers and furious beasts faded into the background, while her resolve swelled, thrumming through her veins. She touched the cold, alien earth beneath her, layering fear against hope, a bridge forged in a darkness that mirrored both her challenges and her burgeoning relationship with the Domar. Across the clearing, Rask's booming voice cut through the lingering tremors, now tinged with admiration rather than mockery. We stand before something greater than ourselves. Whatever forces may want to sever us, we hold our own strength. He turned toward Alia, raising his weapon as a rallying cry, a symbol of unity. Humans fight even alongside our poison. Let this be a testament of strength. At his side, Korath clenched his fist and echoed the sentiment, raising the gauntlet, powerful and gleaming. We will conquer this together. Turning to her team, Alia caught the eye of Joey as they shielded themselves from the dust swirling in the air. This isn't merely our challenge. They are now part of this fight, she said firmly. And we can leverage their knowledge, learn their strengths. We need to expose the weak spots in this poison. The ground beneath their feet writhed, emboldened by the toxic aura that sought to reclaim the moment. It was clear now survival was not just for humans but for all who dwelled here, intertwined like strands of an intricate tapestry. Humanity's adaptability now thrummed mightily, creating a form of symbiosis flowing between worlds. Rask snarled, his figure growing larger in Alia's vision, addressing the others as they stood poised for action. Find the source, cease the chaos. We face the toxins together so we may turn our feuds into kinship. His voice was sharp, energetic. Our roots are interlaced, we rebuild as warriors. The Domar soldiers sharpened their focus, forming patterns in the chaos. Alia felt a fire growing in her chest as she sprinted alongside the host, rallying each soldier as they powered toward the clouds of toxicity that curled like tendrils above the ground. The urgent dance of life and death electrified the space, a culmination of thoughts, strategies, and blood specializations. Follow me. Your poison is no match for our survival, Alia shouted, vaulting in front of them, her loyalty binding everyone together. The blurred line of humanity and Domar roared alive, rippling toward a singular goal: understanding, resilience, and strength. The earth quaked and gray gas enveloped them, drenching their limbs but emboldening spirit. Alia led the way toward the heart of the chaos, sensing the buildup of an unearthly force vaporizing the ancient ground they tread upon. The abrasive atmosphere stung her skin, but she pressed through the waves of grief and despair, air bursting into a haze that blended cultures in a jarring yet beautifully human way. Kresh, a young Domar who once questioned Alia's worthiness, elbowed his way to the front. His golden skin shimmered under the filtering sun, a feral yet striking figure amidst the absurd banter of war and hope. We will climb, he shouted, finding a rallying pitch between the echoes of the encroaching shadows. In unity we have strength. With Kresh's urging, Alia grabbed an artificial vine they had collected earlier in their training and tore it into function, a makeshift oxygen buffer. She glanced at a nearby outcrop, observing how the natural formations created a ventilation system. The wisdom of the land had offered her something of use, and somehow, with the help of the Domar soldiers, she was going to weave all that knowledge together. Follow, Alia hoisted the artificial vine over her shoulder, rushing toward the shimmering rock face nearby. We can amplify our breath. Protect. Slow the poison. Alia's heart raced in a wild cadence, and every tethered breath inhaled and exhaled had significance. She felt the tightness of their shared pulse, laughter drifting with breaths punctuated by strength and struggle. The soldiers pressed forward, holding steadfast behind her as she climbed up the rocky formation, tracing the path like roots of a resilient plant that resisted the stinging air. Each step along the terrain ignited fear and courage within them, and one by one, uniting under fragile and purposeful breaths, both species formed a singular force against the chaos threatening to tear them apart. Rask's footsteps thundered against the earth, his stature towering above, a magnificent leader becoming braver than ever before. Domar, together. We will build together, for we are stronger together. At that moment, a crucial realization settled over Alia. The real strength was not just the ingenuity to utilize Earth's instincts of adaptation, but also the contextual dream of collaboration across both species. Each soldier became human and Domar, nourished by resilience, fueled by challenges that evoke newfound trust. Yet the atmosphere trembled still, releasing darker tendrils that sought to extinguish them. Poison rushed toward them, quicksilver-like as it slipped along the expanse, intent on claiming them, chaos coiling in silken glimmers. Find shelter. Make way. We face the heart of our challenges, but united we will claim victory, Alia bellowed, fiercely aware that survival was no longer a struggle with just her people, but with every soldier carved from those lessons learned along this journey. Tensions electrified the air as the surface expanded, threatening to sever the delicate bonds forged between the races. Rask engaged, thrusting his armored gauntlet forward, plunging into the chaos, dispersing swirling bands of poison that threatened to plunge everything into oblivion. Follow my lead. Drive, Rask proclaimed, a glint at the edge of his determined gaze. They joined him in relentless cohesive action, pulling together wisdom learned from both worlds and powerful throes of adapting might against raw fear. With synchronized movements, they formed an ellipsis, pushing surging waves of life and struggle, inching toward the source of the chaos that sought to pull them apart. Power surged through Alia when she reached the ledge, her feet pressing firmly against the uneven earth, feeling the chaos build in the air. Beyond the obstacle, she could see cracks in the earth, leading to a deep cavern where the poison originated. We have to reach the source. Make a stand, she scanned the horizon and gestured to her comrades. Domar warriors pressed together, gathering at the forefront under Alia's guidance, precisely as she had envisioned. Now, allies, unite your strength. The poison bends but is not absolute. One by one, they summoned their energies and struck in unison, their seething breath an amalgamation of humanity and Domar's echoing resolve. Korath brandished his spear, driving it into the lingering darkness surrounding the cracks. In tandem, Joey used a pouch of chemicals they had preserved from their ship, a defensive compound that had lain dormant in their toolkit, and hurled it into the fissure. "Let's show this world what we've learned," he shouted, launching the bomb into the heart of the morass. As a deafening roar surged up, a bright light erupted from the cavern. The poison wavered, flickering in response to the unexpected convergence of hope and ingenuity as the combined materials swirled together, the darkness colliding with the resilience of spirit. With one final cache, Alia summoned the force of all their efforts. "Feel this strength. Release it." She brandished a shard of specially crafted alloy, a weapon made of wisdom and remnants of history. The surge of violet energy lit the grayness and poured down into the cracks, disrupting the poison's luster. Together, Rask shouted as the last of their combined energies swept through. In that uproar, the cavern imploded, reversing the violence of the air they had fought against for so long. Loss and pain morphed into clarity, woven bonds of adaptability formed a symphony of greetings as poisons turned to dust. And suddenly there was peace. The swirling darkness bent back into itself, coiling about the remnants of their efforts. A gentle, healing hue emerged over the field as dawn's glow embraced their newfound unity. A gift for both those who had dared to adapt and those who had fought together against an unforgiving world. When the stillness settled, Alia and Rask stood shoulder to shoulder against the newly cleared scene. A breath of chilled air foamed gently across the once illuminated fissures, birthing warmth into their revived spirits. Alia looked up at Rask, who appeared both astonished and contemplative. "This world was shaped by our hands," he murmured, a dual reflection brightened within his eyes. "We shattered our beliefs about each other, made something new. United we survived," Alia said, the deep timbre of her voice ringing clear in the now tranquil atmosphere. Wonder gripped her heart, yearning for the next step in this symphony of dusk. As the rest of the soldiers gathered, she exchanged glances with Joey and her team, their loss of skin and exhaustion a bond forged anew by hope and shared experience. Kresh approached, kneeling beside Alia, respect shimmering in his gaze. "You have proven that adaptive spirit can conquer the toughest poison. I vow we will learn from you, build alongside humans in this galaxy." A ripple of yes, a murmur of agreement, echoed throughout the Domar ranks, and slowly the hardened warrior began to inspire a brighter future, creatively responding to the challenge that had looked to divide them before. "Your fight and our fight are not that far apart," Alia replied, a respect mirrored in both her heart and in Rask's sharp insight. "Let us adapt, learn, and rise not in the image of warriors, but as friends." As they walked towards the new light then and the ethereal beauty that lay ahead, both species took a breath filled with renewed vibrancy. The journey ahead remained uncertain, yet the path to a shared destiny was finally illuminated and written in the colors of resilience forged through their battles. And just like that, the alien soldiers, who once claimed humans were too fragile, gathered in awe of what they had become together. For in fighting through the poison atmosphere, they had unearthed the essence of strength, not just to survive, but to thrive side by side by side.